Welcome, Bruce. It's been a while since we both had a conversation, and I don't think it's really necessary to introduce you, but to those who see you for the first time, in short, you are a cell biologist, and your research was specifically on stem cells. And more than about 55 years ago, you discovered something very, very important and very big. And that is the field of epigenetics, which basically means that we are not the slaves of our genes, but the environment plays on our genes. And as I told you before, one reaction I always have here in Germany when or in the German-speaking area, when the people realize that I know you, is, oh, I love Bruce Lipton and his work. That is so important. That is amazing. Epigenetic is the solution for everything, at least. So, and during the past, especially 3 years, we see, I think, a separation in all kinds of areas. One which is mainly going into the transhumanism direction, and one into the natural direction. And as I said, this reaction of especially scientists or doctors that love you and appreciate your work, I often thought about you during the past years and just wondered, did they even get the message of your lectures, for instance? Yeah, I mean, you are having so much videos, interviews, lectures, whatever you want, articles about epigenetic and how big that is. And as I said, during the last years, transhumanism has become a very important topic. Just today, I got an article in Germany, Lauterbach, the health minister, my best friend, wants our genes. So genome medicine is coming in 2024. And of course, critical thinkers are asking, is this the end of humankind? And it's about even starting to edit certain things, like to date, there are CRISPR-Cas babies in China, although it was forbidden. They have grown up. I know that from a friend who's a journalist. She will make an article about that. But on the other hand, I have to say that since years, this CRISPR technology has long taken place. So I first got in touch with this in marine microbiodiversity. A colleague of mine has started to use CRISPR technology or to investigate on that. And when you have a look at the internet, there are certain lectures about what is also possible with this technology. So you can find talks about scientists in front of soldiers, for instance, in certain institutes. So it's free, available on YouTube. And we can selectively inject and erase memories. They can alter it with optogenetics, with like editing a Word document. So that's what they say. I wrote it down. Yeah. It's like they say it. And I don't think we have to go too much into detail, because I'd like to ask you, might epigenetic be the solution? Because I think we can use also terms like not genetic editing, but epigenetic editing is also happening. And I now would like to ask you, Bruce, what was your experience during the last years, and everything you like to say.
I'd like to say a lot, but I don't think we have enough hours for that, but I will love to say this, because there's, this whole idea of transhumanism is that we can make ourselves better. Well, I'll tell you, we haven't even used the powers that we came with. So jumping ahead saying we're going to get better, I say, first, you should really learn how powerful you really are. Quantum physics, excuse me, is the most valid of all the sciences on this planet. And the number one principle of quantum physics is consciousness is creating our life experiences. Basically, what quantum physics is saying is the same thing that the new science epigenetics is saying, because epigenetics says that consciousness is what's controlling your genes. So physics and biology both come together and say we are creators. I go, well, I ask people, how's that working out for you? Are you creating heaven on earth here? And most people, no, they're all caught up in the world, whatever it is. And I say, but you're a creator. Why are you doing this? The answer is simple, and I know you're very familiar with it, but I'll just say it to the audience, is that the brain is a computer. Absolutely, most powerful one humans have ever experienced. There's nothing that can even match in technology. Technology can't match what the human brain can do. There are things that we can do that we don't even use. You know, there are interesting people that are called, idiot savants. Idiot savants have a neurological problem. There was a movie called Rain Man with Dustin Hoffman in it, and he was one of these idiot savants. I go, what about him? These people, for example, an idiot savant was taken up on the Empire State Building and given 5 minutes to look at all the buildings around the Empire State Building. And then they brought him home and they said, draw this. And he drew 100% accurate map of every building that you could see. He only saw it for 5 minutes and downloaded it and was able to create it. Other musicians can download music even though they were never trained in music. And some of them are so good at playing music from former composers that have passed a long time ago that they're so good that even experts have trouble determining who was the amateur and who was the professional when they play, because they're downloading and they're capable of emulating the most famous composers in the world, and they've never really been trained. There are people like Rain Man that could look at a telephone book and memorize all the telephone numbers and play them back. And I say, so what am I saying here? I say, there's a capability of the human brain that goes beyond anything that we can understand. It's like how intelligent, how powerful it is. I say, well, we really refer to these people as, because there's something wrong with them at their other level of normal human behavior, we call them these idiot savants. But the fact is what? They were still using the same brain that we all have. And they have powers beyond anything that we are exercising right now. Are they different genetically? Nope, they're the same as we are. The issue is, why are we not manifesting the lives we want when physics and biology both tell us exactly that our consciousness is going to manifest this reality? Who out there wants to own the reality that we're creating? I go, God, that's a scary reality. I don't want to be there with it. The point is, then how come if we're creators, then we end up with this world? And the answer is, science has recognized something that the Jesuits of the Catholic order have known for 400 years. They have told their followers for 400 years a truth that nobody paid attention to. I said, what did they say? They said, give me a child for the first 7 years and I will show you the man. I go, what the heck does that mean? They've been telling people for 400 years. The point is, what we now know is that brain computer of yours has to get programmed to be used. And the first 7 years is programming. It turns out that the rest of our life, we could use our creative conscious mind and manifest heaven on earth. That's what people do when they fall in love and they have what is called a honeymoon. They created that honeymoon. That wasn't an accident. No matter how blah, blah, blah their life was, 24 hours after falling in deep love, they got a new life. Oh my God, heaven on earth, life is beautiful. I love life. Blah, blah. I said, what'd you do in 24 hours? And the answer was, one of the first times that we actually take the power back of controlling our lives, because up until that point, 95% of our life is coming from the programs that the Jesuits told us about. 7 years programming. Where'd you get the program? In the first 7 years, the child's brain is predominantly in an activity called theta, which is a vibration associated with hypnosis. I say, what's going on? I say, look, you got a brand new computer. If you don't have a program in that computer, I don't care how powerful it is, you can't use it. Can't use a computer until you're able to program in. The child's brain is a computer. The first 7 years is download programs. I said, what do you mean download programs? I said, their brain is in a state of hypnosis. that all of us before age 7 would look at the world and record the behavior. Watch your mother and father, learn how parents behave. Watch your siblings, see how siblings behave. Watch your community, see how the rules are of living in that community. The significance is profound because basically it says you're getting your programs by copying other people. I go, so what? And I said, well, if they have a problem, you copied it, and now you have that problem. For example, people think cancer is due to genes. I say, no, cancer is not due to genes. Cancer is due to programming. And I go, what do you mean? I say, well, if you watch what happens when a child is adopted into a family where there's cancer running in the family, the adopted child will get the same family cancer. Point? The adopted child came from totally different genetics. So the point is this. Where'd the cancer come from? It doesn't come from genes. It comes from lifestyle and programming that is passed from generation to generation. That's why cancer runs in families. It's not the gene that's running, it's the programming. So at a summary point right here, I'm going to tell you what. We are creating our lives. Are we creating it with our conscious mind, which is wishes and desires, or are we creating it with a program mind, which we downloaded from other people? And the answer is 95% of our life is coming from the program mind. We're creating lives that don't support us, but support the condition of the culture at the time. Well, if it's a positive culture, then great download. If it's a negative culture, I'm sorry, you've also downloaded all that negative behavior. Now, coming to transhumanism is, well, our behavior is not great. You know, the world is suffering. We have healthcare crisis everywhere. What's going on? We're weak. We're fragile. We're vulnerable. That's the story. This is a complete fabrication. This isn't real. It's manufactured story. And we're living other people's stories, the programs that we downloaded from other people. When we take this back, then we have option to run our creative life, which is why that led to a honeymoon. Because what it turns out, when you fall in love, you stop playing the program. That's the most important thing. And I say, well, if you stop playing the program, which is from the subconscious, then where's life coming from? From the conscious. I go, yeah, but what's conscious? Creativity. Oh, once we let go of the program, we become creative. And then we say, oh, yeah, but, look, everybody's in the program. They're not doing well. So let's change them. Let's put some chips in them. Let's rewrite their genetics. And I go, don't mess with the system. Learn how to use the system. You don't change the system. People have always said, well, humans are smarter than nature. That unfortunately, Heidi, you and I came from a science background. And a science background is a mission statement. Science is an effort with a mission. I said, what was the mission? I said, from 1600s. What's the mission? From Francis Bacon. We are here. Science is here to dominate and control nature. What? That we are supposedly through science going to control nature? Who do we think we are? We are nature. And we haven't learned to even use it. So we look like we're less powerful than we really are. We look like we need all kinds of support. I need all kinds of things. Give me a gene for better health. Give me a gene for more intelligence. I go, first of all, that whole story about genes is completely wrong. So the idea of changing our genetics with, CRISPR or whatever techniques you want to change the genetics, I go, first of all, that's a big mistake. Don't change the genetics, change the consciousness. It's the consciousness via epigenetics. Epi means above. So when you say epigenetic control, you're saying control epi above the genes, control above the genes. This is our natural CRISPR. This is our natural programmer. The conscious mind can rewrite your genetics. And this is where the power comes from. You are not a victim of your genes. You're the one that selects the genes, modifies their activity. And again, our presumed weakness that we must enhance who we are is so silly because we haven't even proved who we really are. And to go change us before you demonstrate who you really are is the stupidest idea in the world, because you're messing with a machine that you personally have no control over, except every time we mess with it, we screw it up. And I'll give you that example here in the United States, which is not different from many of the other Western countries. The first leading cause of death is cardiovascular disease, heart attacks, and stuff like that. The second leading cause of death is cancer. Okay. The third leading cause of death in the United States has a Latin name. It's called iatrogenic illness. People go, oh, that's interesting. I don't think I have any iatrogen. I go, no, you don't get it. Iatrogenic illness is the definition of, and ready, an illness as a result of medical treatment, meaning a person goes to the doctor with problem A, gets treated by the doctor, but then has a problem called problem B, which is a result of the treatment, which is usually more toxic than the treatment, than the problem was. So iatrogenic illness, medical-related illness, is the third leading cause of death in the United States. You think I want to follow, a science that is causing the third leading cause of death in the United States? Hell no. Whatever they're saying, I don't want to get near those people because they are destroying human civilization. The only way to get human civilization back is say, we've been programmed. Oh, yeah, but the Jesuits have told us we were programmed. Well, that's a fact of science. First 7 years, you were programmed, and 95% of your life science, and psychologists have recognized, is coming from the program. It's not coming from the conscious mind, which is a creative mind that everyone thinks we have to expand and put some chips in there and make it work better. I say, you're not even using it. We're running these programs. Because if you were using it, then you would have a honeymoon every day of your life if that's because you are the creator. Well, you are the creator. If you're not experiencing a honeymoon, then I'm sorry, your creation is off, not you. Your creation is off. And so we want to enhance ourselves. I said, we can enhance yourself by starting to use your consciousness. And that's what quantum physics has been telling us. That's what epigenetics is telling us. And this is not the genetic engineers who have some belief that the genes control us and that we need to put the genes and make them different. They got it completely wrong. That science is completely wrong. Genetics says the mind controls the reading of the genes and can change the readout of any gene based on our consciousness. The idea is that the genes control us. I go, that idea is so old that I saw it, as you said, I saw it in 1967, but it took regular science till 1990 to understand, wait a minute, the genes don't control us. It's our mind that controls the genes. Well, if you have been programmed that you're not that smart, then guess what? What are you telling your machine? I'm not that smart. I go, so then what do you think the machine's going to do? Be stupid, because you already told it wasn't going to be smart. And to me, this gets me really upset because people don't really recognize the value of something because we want to make it more complicated. Oh, no, we need to change your genetic readout. We need to put a chip inside your body and fix you up. I say, you're not even living up to your potential. And the idea is, why are you here? Why are you here? Well, the idea, as far as I can see from a biological point of view, is if there's a vision of something called heaven, welcome. This is why we're here. And Heidi, you have been changing your life to find a destination that said, there's more heaven than living over here if I live over there. Why? Because the environment and the people around you are shaping the character. If you live in an environment where the people are scared, then you're scared. Why? Because everybody's scared, and the idea of this vaccine was a manipulation. And I say that because I've been teaching immunology for 14 years at a postgraduate level. So I have a little more than just passing knowledge. The idea about what did the vaccine process do? You ready? It caused people to separate from each other. It caused them to wear a mask so they couldn't read each other's faces. They told them stand 6 feet apart so you don't even touch each other. You don't get near each other. You keep away. And I say, give me the biological significance of this process. And the answer is this. People only have power when they're in a state of community. A single individual, I got no power. But if I have 10,000 people behind me with the same belief, you can bet we have some power. So I say, then what do you want to do to disempower people? I say, separate them. I go, oh my God, the whole COVID story was disempowering the public. The entire planet, the behavior of the entire planet for a period was controlled by very few people at the top that made the decision of how you're going to deal with this COVID vaccine. And the idea was, you mean a handful of people control the behavior of the entire planet? I go, yes, it did. I go, be prepared, folks. This is a test of controlling a population because nobody had power. We were all separated. And the idea is this world is not any longer what we might have thought it was when we were younger a few years back. I grew up in a country that was once great. Now it's number one in prisoners, number one in health crisis, number one in things I don't even want to talk about. How did we go from a powerful country to this state? And the answer, we were programmed to take away our power. The pharmaceutical company, the hospital industry makes money when we are sick. They don't make money when we are healthy. The drive of any corporate entity, number one, is to make money. That is the law of government. The function of a corporation is to make a profit for the shareholders. I go, wait a minute. Healthcare, pharmaceutical industry, both of those are corporations. What's their function? Make money for the shareholders. Where do they get this money from? From the patients. I go, what does that mean? They give you so many things you have to do and pay for every step of the way that they make money. You just show up at the door. If you're healthy, they don't want you. They only want the sick people because you don't make money from healthy people. So they feed us trash food, industrial farm food. It's not natural. It's not organic. It's toxic.
Which are also epigenetic factors, by the way.
100% epigenetic factor. What we eat,
yes,
we become.
The wider, the better. Yeah. So there are also strong epigenetic factors. Research field I was on, natural products in the marine environment, and you can see it in larval development and all of these things. And one thing I'd like to ask you, to those people who got the shot, I know they are very concerned that the genes are stable, manipulated. One thing I'd like to add before you answer. As a, I can tell right out of a lab, it's not easy to genetically manipulate a single organism like a bacterium. Really, It's not easy because nature has always one tendency to get rid of not useful genetic mutations. Always. I know it's an orchestra of different influences. I know that. But I also know that the nature has to handle this shit also. Yeah, the spike proteins, all of this. And as long as the wildlife, the wild plants are still thriving, we are having a good chance, more than a good chance, to survive. So that's like what I like to add. And I can hear the shout outs in my ears. So if I got genetically modified, at least with these, the difference is it's a physical, it's physically going into the cells and cutting your DNA directly. But Bruce, I'd like to hear from you. Is this reversible?
Yes, here's the idea. Through epigenetics, you don't change the gene itself. A gene is a blueprint to make a protein. That's its job. The proteins are the building blocks. So when you look in the mirror, you see me on a screen. This is a protein machine. It's all proteins, 100,000 different ones. The genes are blueprints to make the protein. So I say, so what about them? I say they help build the body. And I say, well, epigenetics reads the blueprint like an architect. Blueprints can't turn themselves on and off. The idea that genes turn on and off, that's 100% false. There's no gene that turns on and off. Genes are blueprints. It's the mind is an architect that reads the blueprints. But the mind not only reads the blueprints, it can, like an architect, modify the readout of the blueprint. So with your mind, from one gene blueprint, I can create over 3,000 different protein building blocks from the same gene. I say, I don't rewrite the gene, I rewrite the copy of the gene, which is called RNA. And I can change the copy of the gene, make thousands of different versions of proteins. Yeah. So the idea about all this is that epigenetics is the architect in your mind, adjusting your genetics to fit the picture in your mind. If you have a picture of fear, then the genetics will be something that will give you fear, give you sickness, whatever it is, because that's what you believe, then you will manifest it. It's what you believe. And so I got the vaccine, and we now know there are very serious side effects of this vaccine.
Oh, yes.
And we also now know that the vaccine can reverse transcriptase. That means the mRNA that is causing the spike, which is the problem, can actually go into our own genome and become a part of our genes, which is toxic as hell. There are many side effects. I say, what am I going to do with these side effects? I go, you don't need to do anything other than keep your mind and consciousness clear. If you keep your mind and consciousness at a higher level of organization, those things can't bother you. I illustrate in a video that was taken by a television station. In the United States, in the South, we have religious entities that work themselves up into religious ecstasy, they say, okay? They start speaking in tongues, like strange stuff, okay? They do something called testify. This is what I want to point out. I say, what is testify? They want to show you the power of God. I said, so how do they show that to me? I said, they do things no normal person in their right mind would ever do. I go, like what? Well, some of them play with very poisonous snakes. I go, so? I said, when they get bitten, they don't have the same toxic side effects that other people have. The one I wanted to bring up, and this is to me is a real big one. Some of them drink strychnine poison in toxic doses and have no adverse effects because they're saying God protects me. I go, it's their belief of protection that made them, override the toxin. They didn't get affected by strychnine. I say, that's how powerful the belief is. You can drink deadly poison and not have an effect, but your mind has to be 100%. This is in that testify state to prove something. You have to be 100%. You can't be 99% and then drink the strychnine. I wouldn't do that. But so what's the point of all that? And it basically says this: do I need somebody to come in and adjust my genetics from the outside? And I go, no, I adjust my genetics just by changing the consciousness of my mind. And I can become well of any disease through something called the placebo effect. Well, placebo effect, the belief that something is going to heal me, whether it's surgery or a pill. A person's got an illness, a doctor says, here's the greatest, newest pill. This is just for you. This is going to fix you. You believe that this is it. You take the pill, you get better. Then you find out the pill was a sugar pill. Well, what made you better? It wasn't the sugar. It was your belief in healing that made you well. And as we brought up, and just as important and maybe more important, is placebo was based on a positive belief of healing. What about a negative belief, like a fear of cancer or something like that? And I go, equally powerful in controlling your life as the placebo. It's called nocebo, a negative belief. It can cause any disease. It can even cause you to die if you believe that. And all of a sudden, it's like, just as the physicist said, it was our belief. Whether it was positive, we got well. Whether it was negative, we got sick. It was the belief that controlled this. And yet we've been programmed, no, that's not you. That's your genes. That's your environment. You're a victim. And we've been programmed to be a victim. And I say, why? Victim means powerless. And when you are powerless, you will look for anybody, anything that could give you your power back. And you'll pay them anything. You'll pay them, how much to fix me? I'll pay it, whatever it is. And all of a sudden, what we're finding is we give up our power because we believe we're victims, and then buy the power from somebody else when you were powerful already. You just didn't believe it. And Heidi, I know your work has gone along these lines for a long time. You're not a novice to what I'm talking about. You're a scientific researcher. You have your understanding, and this is why I'm happy and love to be with you, because we can talk at a level that if people don't know the language of science, here's a little joke. Science is like the church. We put our language into Latin. nobody knows what the hell we're
Absolutely.
talking about. And yet,
Absolutely. That's what we can see during the last years, because science communication just was taking place since then, and in a very bad level. So we see the negative side of science communication, yeah. And we
yes,
also have this problem. It's a good example. I know when we met the first time online, I was a PhD student, and we got trainings in science communication that also just started because they realized we have to change our language to the public. And now I
yes,
can see this happening or taking place. So I'd like to add one example at the nocebo effect. Yeah. On the one hand, we are in our field, that's where I'm mostly about talking about. We are blaming, for example, oncologists by or how they treat their patients. If you don't do this or that, you will die immediately. And now I can see that in many cases with patients with this new injections. Yeah. So I think it's important to remind doctors and all kind of health practitioners of the power of their words to their
yes.
patients. I think that is
This
very
how
important that we make the difference, because we can only live the difference. I'm not a doctor, I'm a scientist, and I'm right there. That's the place to be for me. Absolutely.
yeah.
I'm a biologist and I love to be a cell biologist like you. Okay, sure. But nature always has a solution, and that is the big mistake of this transhumanism people. They don't even get the message. Study a bit of ecology in the marine environment, and you will get this burst of how everything is interconnected and what we know on the physical level. I don't have to go into quantum physics to see that, Bruce.
Yes,
Really, really. And
yes.
that was so open mind. It was like an explosion for me in my brain when I was sitting in front of my later on Dr. Vater. I didn't knew that, but I always said all kinds of doctors, health practitioners need to have ecology. They have to understand epigenetic, because as an ecologist, you know epigenetic. You don't have the word for that, but you know it. You see it
Yeah.
every day in your research. How everything, one bacterium cannot live without this algae or something. Yeah, and I think that was. I'm sorry to interrupt you, but I think that
No,
was
no,
very
that's
important.
important. What you're
Yeah.
saying is very important. We're entangled with everything. And
Yes.
this is why it's very difficult when a doctor is trained to look at a patient sitting in a chair and says, well, let me test your blood pressure, let me test your heart rate, let me check these things and see what's wrong with you. And I go, what may be wrong with them has nothing to do with their physiology. It could be their relationship. It could be the job. It could be the environment in which they live. All these outside factors have been ignored. And the reality is, no, these outside factors are what ultimately control epigenetics. So if you want to find a person's illness and the cause, it may not have anything to do with them, but everything to do with the world in which they're living. And if a doctor focuses on the individual, then they're ignoring the major input that controls our life: relationships, environment, water, food, all these things. That's part of
The
our
sun
life.
activity, the Schumann resonance. Yeah. For
Yeah.
instance, all of these things, and there will be things you and I don't know, which we cannot measure for now.
No.
Yeah. So
It's very interesting. Astrology, everyone thinks, oh, that's fakey stuff. And I go, no, astrology is, I call it astrophysiology. The energy of the field is what controls who and what we are. The planets and their movement alter the energy of the field. In fact, I use a paper that was published in Science a long time ago. A very strange, like Latin name. It said lunar modulated behavior of a marine mollusk. I go, what's that? What they showed is snails eat in a spiral. And the reason that snails eat in a spiral is because if they go crisscross, they go over the same ground they've already covered. If you go in a spiral, you're always getting new environment. Okay. So when they put a snail in a track and it splits into a Y and they come down the track, this particular species will always turn right. When given the choice of coming down, they will always go to the right because that's the spiral. what they found was this always happened except on the new moon. A new moon, it was 50-50. They go left, they go right, 50-50. And they said, what's that? The new moon? What's going on here? They found out if they took they made an artificial geomagnetic field, energy field, like gravity field. And on the new moon, they turned it 180 degrees around the opposite way. Guess what? Then all of the snails went to the right again. So what was the point? The moon altered the reading of the magnetic field, which then altered the behavior of the snail.
Wow.
I say, that's called astrology, folks. The behavior was controlled by the action of the moon, not by the action of the snail. And all of a sudden I say, yeah, the sun is the biggest influence, 24-hour cycle. The moon is a 28-day cycle. And I mean, it's not a coincidence that a woman's menstrual cycle is on a 28-day cycle. What a coincidence. I say, it's not coincidence, it's moon activated. and the other planets all have an effect. And I go, what are they altering? The energy field. I say, yeah, but we live in that energy field. We're, as you mentioned very early, and I didn't say anything because it was like right on, you said everything is interconnected. There's no separation of you in the entire universe. To try to give a picture, I show people rain falling on a pond. And every time a raindrop hits, it makes ripples, okay? The atoms are actually like the ripples. That they're not physical in quantum physics. They're like ripples, okay? But I say, look at the pond. Show me where there's a set of ripples not touching any of the other ripples. I go, no. Every raindrop, the ripples from every raindrop are connected to the ripples of every other raindrop. There's no raindrop whose ripples are not connected. I go, yes, that's the energy of entanglement. We are like the raindrops falling into the universe of energy pond. You know, it's all energy. I said, we're connected to everything, as you said. So I wanted to emphasize that because people think, oh, I'm just living my isolated life. I said, no, you are not. There's no human being who lives a totally isolated life that is healthy in any sense of the word. And I said, we're all entangled and other people's energies are influencing our energy. And then all of a sudden, like you just found, maybe the energy of the environment you were in wasn't the energy you want to be in because it was influencing you in not a positive way. So you found, wait, I'll move to another environment. Now in this other environment, okay, this one is more in harmony with it. That's not an accident. That's not oh, wow, what happened? I go, no, it's an energy field. We're all in energy fields, but some of our energy fields are not supporting us, especially when they're run by corporations that don't care about us, just care about the money. And the reality is then we're generating energy fields that are not supportive of human life. And this is why we're facing an extinction. Human life is seriously facing an extinction. NASA scientists have clearly said within the next 2 decades, we are going to see, and I want to emphasize this word, irreversible, an irreversible collapse of industrial civilization. Irreversible means the fall, the collapse that we're now experiencing will not take us back to where we were. We can't go backwards. We have to only go forward. So people think, oh, everything is going to come back to normal. I go, it wasn't normal in the first place. That's why we have the problems we have. But to make it normal now, we have to change our behavior. We have to change how we respond to the environment. Why? Because genetics is the readout of the environment on our genes. And we have to understand that we have to live in harmony with the world. We came with the idea, and especially as I mentioned, science's mission is to dominate and control nature. I go, well, that was the wrong program. If science was real, it was really how to live in harmony with nature, not how to control nature. And we have a distinct lack of harmony. And that lack of harmony is now manifest in a breakdown of the environment. And that we are part of that.
I'm sorry, I'd like to add something.
Yeah, go right ahead. Go right ahead.
Do you know the desertgreening.com project? Desert greening. So it's about regreening the desert. And it worked by harmonization of the frequencies. And I'm a researcher, and I'm happy that I could do my own research with it. So I'm trying everything out on my own, or otherwise I can't talk about it. So we are researchers. That's how we are, right? So
100%.
So and so it's too large. It's too much to explain it all. But at least it's helping nature to get a harmonized weather, which is used to this area, a natural kind of weather. The chemtrails are being dissolved earlier, much easier. It's like an acupuncture needle to get the energies, so the atmospheric and the terrestrial energies interconnected again because they're separated. And the theory says that atom testing has caused this. I can explain that later to you, but what I want to say is that I realized that we have a solution for everything. We have a researcher and developer. They don't have to need to study it sometimes. They are very intelligent. You know, the fungi man from, I don't know, Canada, who's his name is, he got an documentary about fungi and the fungi network.
Yeah, Paul Stamets. Paul
Yes,
Stamets?
for
Yeah.
instance, Paul Stamets. Yeah, you have been on a congress, I think, with him together, but he never studied biology, for instance, and he's the expert. And I want to encourage the people to be their own expert. Yeah. So, but what I just wanted to say is, on the one thing, like the transhumanism line, this destructive line is ongoing, and on the other side, we have this solutions where more and more people are open to, because I just remember 3 years ago when you mentioned 5G or chemtrails. Yeah, now in Germany, geoengineering is the solution for climate change, for instance. Yeah, really, you can see documentaries about that, and
Yeah.
it's this ridiculous thing. So one thing I'd like to know is you talk about the honeymoon. Yeah, that we all have the capability to live our honeymoon. Did you live your honeymoon the past 3 years?
Did I what, my honeymoon?
Yeah, did you live your honeymoon?
Past
Although we had this
29
pandemic.
years. 29 years.
And how was your experience during the last 3 years personally? Was it fine? Was it?
As all the craziness was going on, I was as happy as anybody could ever be. I live in the environment I chose. I live in the environment that I create, you know, where I live, to try to separate from the rest of the crazy world. I have my own electricity from the sun. I have my own water from the well. I could live on my property without even going outside because I'm the gardener in my own yard, and I create a harmony in my garden. And I live a honeymoon every day for 29 years. And it wasn't that way for 40 plus years of my life. It was interesting, like you, when I first came up with this insight and understood the nature of, oh my God, we're creating our lives, therefore we can create the most magnificent life. I was so excited. I wanted to tell everybody. I would gather people together and I said, let me tell you the secret of creating the most wonderful life. And then they look at me and they go, Lipton, for a guy who says you know the secret, your life doesn't look that good. Oh, I realized I knew the information in my conscious creative mind, but my life, 95% was coming from the program, which was the old belief system. So no matter how smart I was in my conscious mind, my life was not playing that smartness, was playing the old program. So my mind was saying, let me tell you how to create a great life, but my program was not making me have a great life. So I remember very clearly saying, man, I can no longer tell people about this until I take this information myself and then create a life based on this information, change my behavior to conform to the new belief system. The moment I changed it, I swear, Heidi, it was just like overnight, my life changed. And I have been living this wonderful, happy life. You know, I'm not that young. I'm near 80 at this point. And yet I have no idea of 80 in my head. I have no idea of 80 in my life. I am not going there because aging is also a belief. People say, oh, I'm too old to do that. And I say, well, now you are. You just said so. You're the one that said so. And people don't recognize. We shut ourselves down because we believe we're getting old and we shouldn't do stuff. And I go, you're manifesting old. That you think you're old, now you're old. I go, you have to change this belief. And that it doesn't, a normal human age, according to the current version, is 150 years of age, normal, minimum. Okay. How come we're dying at 80 or 90? And the answer why we're dying at that age is because we have given up on life and we age when we let go and say, I'm too old. And I say, then what are you thinking? What's the picture? Old, dying. And I go, oh, well, guess what? The mind manifests this, and you can die at any age you feel. So this is important. So basically, our story is simply, who are you? And I can tell you who you could be, but I can also tell you who you are. I say who you could be is you're a creator. You can have honeymoon every day of your life for as long as you live on this planet. You can live in harmony, have health every day of your life, never have a problem. But who are we? No, we're playing programs, because that is the nature of the way the mind, the conscious and subconscious minds work. The subconscious mind is programmed, operates 95%. Jesuits have even said that. They said, if I give you the program, then your life will match the program. And I go, that belief hasn't disappeared. The people that control our education, the people that control our beliefs, like the television and the media, they tell us about our life, and we buy the story and we become what they tell us. I stopped. Actually, I love it, because at the last US election, November 8th, last year, I said, I'm not going to watch the news anymore. I don't want to watch it. Why? Because they're making up stories. They make me a victim, in a sense. Like, I watch the story and go, can I do anything about it? No. I said, then what does that mean? I said, you scaring me with stories that I cannot even change. I become a victim of your story. So I said, the hell with it. I don't care what your news is. I will fix the things that I can fix, because that's my life. I can fix those things. So I'll put energy into that. I'll fix things that could help my family and my community. I'll put energy into that. But when things get out of hand, like a war in the Ukraine or something like that, nobody cares what Bruce says. So why should I get my emotion tied up? Because it'll affect me in a negative way, and I have no resolution. I have no way of changing that. So the best thing is what? Then don't get caught up in it, because if you can't change it, all you can do is give your energy away. You don't get anything back. And that's the future that I see. And I call it an energy checkbook. I go, what does that mean? I go, well, you have a bank account and you have a checkbook. And I say, what's the bank account? It's money. I say, yeah, but what is the money? Energy. It's the money that gives you the energy to do what you want, buy a house, go on vacation. You have to have the money. So I say, do you, just think about it, do you go down the street and write checks to people for no reason? Hey, Heidi, you're so pretty. Let me give you a check for $5. Okay. Hey, Bill, nice pair of shoes. Let me give you here's $10 for you. I go, you don't do that. I say, why not? Why would you give away your money when that is your power? I go, oh, that's right. Now I tell you this, in the body, there's a coin of the realm, meaning a unit of currency called ATP. And we use this ATP, and that's our energy. I go, if I gave you a checkbook, before you spent your energy, you had to write a check. And I would say, you would start to see is, why am I putting my energy into this? I get nothing back. Why do I put my energy into things that I give up my energy, but I don't get better? My community doesn't get better. Why would I write a check? Think about it. So I say, yeah, if you had an energy checkbook, guess what? You'd be very much more careful of how you use your energy on this planet. But we don't even think about it. We just use the energy like it's always there. I say, it's not always there. Lose your job. Tell me where your energy is now. Get shut down by COVID. You tell me where your power is now. And you start to realize, oh my God, I'm spending energy and not getting anything back. Then I say, oh, well then guess what? Stop giving away your energy. Do things that enhance your life or the life of your community and your family. Do those things for sure. But don't put your energy into something, people go into a bar, they get into an argument over politics. They get hot, they get heated, they're wasting all this energy, energy yelling and blah, blah, blah. And then they get out of the bar and I say, you spent all that energy, what did you change? Nothing. I said, well, you spent all the energy. What'd you get? Nothing. I said, wasn't that a waste of time? I go, yeah, it was. Start using your time. It's your life. And you should be using your energy to enhance your vitality. You should be eating well. You should be living in an environment that is peaceful and harmony. You should contribute as a gardener to make your area of the garden beautiful. Take care of, in the old days, I'm old enough, back in the hippie days, Heidi, you weren't around, but they say a very important phrase that I think is important today. And they would say, before you change the world, take care of your own backyard. And this is what I agree still to this day. I'm not going to go out and change the world if my yard is bad. if I'm not happy in my yard, why would I want to go change the world? First, I want to fix my yard. Then, when I'm stable and happy, I can use my energy for other people. And it's interesting because people think, oh, you're taking care of yourself. Isn't that selfish? And I go, no. I'll give you a reason. In an airplane, and they give the instructions, we're going to fly. And if there's a problem, oxygen masks will come down from the ceiling. And the point was, put your mask on before you help other people. You go, oh, isn't that selfish? I go, no, because if you can't help yourself, you can't help anybody else either. So first you have to heal yourself, take care of yourself, and then you could help other people. So is it being selfish to take care of yourself? I say, it's the most important thing you can do, because you can't take care of yourself or anybody else if you're not in the right place. And that means you have to take care of yourself first. Don't spend your energy where you have no return of your energy. We do things because, well, that's the way we always done it. Oh, that's the social structure. We always do this. Heidi, you're familiar with academia. I can tell you the very first day when I was thinking about all this, and I said, I got to control my life. And I was thinking about this, and one of my faculty colleagues came in and said, Bruce, don't forget, there's a faculty party on Saturday night. What are you bringing? And I'm going to tell you the truth, and you might know this. Faculty parties are the most boring waste of time I could ever imagine. We don't like each other on a social level. We work in a research. On a social level, we don't talk to each other. Everybody stands around with a drink in their hand. Saturday night, I'm thinking, I work all week. Do you think I want to go out Saturday night and just give it away and do nothing but waste my Saturday night? So at this moment of thinking, I said to him, oh, I forgot I made other arrangements. I won't be able to go. And he looked at me like, you're not going to the faculty party? And I go, oh, no, I blah, blah, blah. And he walked out. The second he walked out, I gave, yeah. Why? I just got Saturday night for me. I didn't play the program and give away my life energy to something that was a waste of time. I got nothing out of it. Nobody got anything out of it. I want people to understand that. Stop putting your energy into something where you get nothing back. It's like writing a check where you give away your money and you got nothing.
And prefer the student parties.
Oh, students are much more fun.
Yes.
It's the faculty that are a pain in the ass.
That's a lesson for life. Prefer the student parties.
That's it. Stay with the young people, because if you're not, you're getting old with the old people.
Yeah.
And it's interesting because I went back after I left the university. I went back a few years later, and I didn't recognize most of my former colleagues. They aged so much from the time I left. I looked at them and I was trying to think of their names because I worked with them. I couldn't even remember their names because they didn't look like they aged. And I was like, I'm not aging. Why? I'm having too much fun. Why would I want to do what they do?
Amazing news.
I just want people to understand they can do this, because they have a belief that they must conform to the social structure. And I say, well, if the social structure is helping you, yeah. If it's helping your family, yeah. Helping your community, yeah. But if you see that you're engaged and you put your energy in and nothing changed for you and your community, then that is the same as giving away your money. And you give away your money, you give away your life. And I think that's really the simplest rule right there.
Yeah, it is absolutely. And in the most cases, it shows that you might change something, should change something, the environment or the people you hang out with or whatever. Huh?
Let me offer a little story because I think it's exactly what you just said. A friend of mine, Gabriel Cousins, I think it was doing a program where it was called Raw for 30 Days. I said, what is it? He said, people with diabetes type 2, people should know this, diabetes type 2 is not genetic, it's lifestyle, 100%. People that were insulin dependent diabetes type 2 were given a choice. They said, look, if you come with us for 30 days and we'll stay over at this hotel somewhere else, and you eat raw food for 30 days, I guarantee you, you will not be diabetic. Well, they got into this environment. First, to tell you the truth, they hated raw food after, where's my McDonald's burger? You know, it's not there. But they put up with it. I said, what was the result? You ready? Every one of them became diabetes free. Not one of them had diabetes anymore. And I said, well, that's a great study. And then I asked this question. I said, so what happened when they went home? 9 out of 10 got diabetes again. They went back to the environment that supported their diabetes. They left the environment, healed themselves. But the moment they came back to the environment, they fell right back into the energy and they got the diabetes all over again. And the point about it is, just as you said, it's an environment is a very critical part of our world. Surround yourself with people who are in harmony with you. Because if the people around you are not in harmony with you, they take away your harmony. And you are powerful, but really be supported by other people who agree with you. And that's what community is, to be in the middle of a group of people that agree with you. And
We
all
are
of a sudden,
social
then you have
beings.
power.
We are social beings, you know?
Yeah.
That's what we are. And it's not the people, it's also the animals, the plants, the bees, the trees, whatever you like to see.
Yeah.
And
Let me add to that too, because I use a slide in today's lecture. In 1929, the middle of the United States is where all the food grows. It's called the breadbasket of the United States. All the wheat, the corn, all that stuff grows farmland, middle of the United States. In 1929, with the stock market crash, the farmland turned into a dust bowl. It had dust storms just like the Sahara, big clouds of dust, hundreds of feet high, just blowing and covering everything with dirt and dust, and no growing, no food, nothing. It wasn't working anymore. Guess when the Dust Bowl ended? 1939, 1940, when World War II was going to begin. Why? Because then the people came back into community to fight in the war. They lost the community when the stock market fell and nobody had any jobs. There was no money. Everybody fell apart. But the point is you were just making is nature fell apart when the people fell apart and caused the Dust Bowl. And the Dust Bowl ended when the people came back together again in the nature of community. And all of a sudden, as you said, and the emphasis is 100% right, we affect everything around us, the plants, the environment, everything. Some people say, you know, I can't grow plants. I don't have a green thumb. I said, what does that mean? He said, well, every time I grow plants, they all die. And I go, they're reflecting your energy. Your energy is off because other people can grow plants and they're lush and they grow beautifully. Same plant. I say, what's the difference? It's not the food, the nutrient, the water. It's the energy of the environment. When people can't grow plants, their energy in the environment is not supporting of life. That's what's going on. And on top of that, veterinarians that work with animals recognize that our pets, cats and dogs especially, their illnesses are a direct copy of the illnesses of the owner. And all of a sudden, it's why? Because they take on the energy of the owner. That's what a pet does in bonding. And if you're sick, then your animal gets sick. And then you take the animal to the vet and you think the animal's got a problem. I say, that was a mirror because it was you that actually caused the problem.
And the toxic environment. No?
100%.
And
we create the environment.
yeah.
And whether it's the Dust Bowl or whether it's your dog, We're creating the environment. And if you don't understand this, then you look at the world and go, I am a victim of everything, and you didn't realize you were creating. That's the issue.
It's somehow just, I really now first understand what you said about heaven is in your garden, at least. And it's what I'm doing right now. It's really that way. So I do what I can in my garden to have a lot of insects, butterflies, bees. I do everything for them, for the plants, effective microorganisms, for instance, to degrade
Yes.
the pesticides. This spheric harmony thing I do, this desert greening thing is very good. I will give you more information about that later, but all of these things, we have a solution for everything, but we also don't only have to keep our minds in a positive state or in a solutionary state, but we also have to act with our hands. And we also, I think what I see in my work is the tendency to get allergic to processed foods. Processed foods, no good idea. Everybody becomes sick, and it gets worse and worse and worse. But I think that is connected to this process to live from nature as nature has to be. And if we are not able to eat this shit, we are filled with sugars and artificial sweeteners and whatever cancer-causing thing you can imagine. I think that is a good thing that our bodies are showing us as a vehicle on this planet. So on the outside, we live in a terrestrial world, but in the inside, we are the ocean. Our blood, our cells, the water in our cells, marine seawater is very, very beneficial. I've got my own experience with that. And you know that I'm mostly in the thing with macroalgae. But I think that is a good thing that we get some kind of allergic to that, because our bodies are saying us directly, stop that. And
Exactly.
I think that's good. And it's also a process that we take our bodies with on this journey, you know, to some degree.
Well, we're manifesting the character of our body. And my guess is, and I don't know, it's you, but I guess when you're doing your garden, you are in a happy state. When you're working in your garden, you're working in harmony with the environment, and you and the environment become that harmony. And people think when I talk about the honeymoon effect, it's, oh, I got to do it with another person. I go, no, you have to just be with something you love to do. It could be with your pet. You could have that harmony with a pet, not another. You could have a honeymoon because you have a pet that gives you your pleasure to be with them. You could get harmony from, like you're doing, put your hands in the ground, in the dirt, plant something, live with life, make life come from your hands of work. You can be in love at being a chef, because it's all of these things keep your conscious mind in the present moment. When you're working in the garden, you keep your mind in the hands in the dirt and the touch and the feel and the smell, and you're in an environment. When you're that chef, you're putting all the pieces together to create something so beautiful that way. An artist, same thing. So that was why it's really important for you, not just you can go get natural food. Sure, there's stores, but you can grow natural food. And I go, oh, now you're a participant. You are using your energy to manifest an environment. That's your power. And this is what people need. I can have a honeymoon without another person. I can have a honeymoon because I'm in love doing what I like to do. And that is the same as being with a person and having a honeymoon with a person. It doesn't have to be that way. And gardening, again, is one of those things that when you're doing this, you're engaged in this, and your consciousness becomes engaged in this garden.
And the immediate feedback. And this immediate feedback. So I think it's absolutely easy and fast to see how thankful, for instance, plants are. So in this garden here, for instance, it needs some support to say, of course, like everywhere. But it's and what I also would like to mention is we both use our scientist skills, you know.
Yes.
Of course, I do this differently than a normal person. Of course, I have a look at, for instance, with the spheric harmony thing. I made a lot of videos in the morning and in the evening, watching the clouds. The clouds are the key. If the cloud has a healthy, normal, like we both still remember, form, there you can see if the environment and everything is okay, more or less. Yeah. So
Yes.
and of course I did that in the morning and the evening. You should, of course, I know many other things I should have done better, but at least I'd like to make a test. How can I regenerate in my garden in 1 year everything I can to get the most dense, nutrient dense food, the most best,
Yes.
healthiest plants, the wildest genes inside of them getting back activated, just to say, by the way. So, for instance, and I think that I found out that doing something life supporting, whatever that means for you, is absolutely necessary in during that times. I got a lot of really emails from a lot of very sad persons in Germany, for instance. And I think it's time to remember that it is us to take back our power. And just like you said, always, I think you have to go, right? It's over.
Well, very soon, but I just want to make sure that I leave, we've been talking about everything, self-empowerment. That we have to stop saying I'm a victim, because when you say you're a victim, then your brain is going to translate the chemistry of victim into your body, which is disempowerment. Victim can get you sick just by thinking about being a victim, because you're manifesting a reality in your mind. And then we can go all the way back to transhumanism. I say, why should I start waiting for a chip to fix me? I can change anything I want right here in my head right now. I can change my genetics. I can change my life experience. I can do all this. Why should I be looking for somebody to implant something? Why should I go to the pharmaceutical company and get a drug from them? And you and I know this, but maybe the public doesn't recognize. When a drug works, it works because the cells have what's called a receptor, a protein that will recognize the drug and then engage the function. Well, you already have the receptors before the pharmaceutical company was created. We've had the receptors for hundreds of thousands of years. Why do I have to go out and get a chemical? Because if you have a receptor, then you have to recognize the truth. I can make that chemical because the receptor is waiting for me to create the chemical. Why should I have to go buy the chemical? Because my mind is the pharmaceutical company. My mind creates all the chemicals. Taking pharmaceuticals, bad, very bad, because side effects are so part of every one of it. Nobody wants to talk about it. Oh, it's just a side effect. I go, it's not a side effect. It's a direct effect when you take these drugs. And I said, do I need to take the drug? And I go, well, realistically, no. Why? I make the same drug in my mind. That means, oh, well, then my mind must not be in harmony if I'm not making the drug that gives me health. There you go. So what's the prescription? Buy the drug? I say, no, change the mind. That's where you win. And you know that.
Good water.
Because you're a good biologist, and biologists know this stuff, but the average person on the street, not trained, does not recognize the connection of things that you and I are talking about.
Well, to be honest, the last 3 years, I thought many more biologists should know what's going on in the wrong direction here. But anyway, so many didn't. So that was very surprising to me, because after my time, and it's almost over 10 years ago, cell biology or molecular biology is part of every biologist. You have to have work to work in a lab with molecular techniques like PCR, cell biology, different kinds of, but at least we can see finally, yeah, in which direction we can go. And many people awakened. That's what we really considered right now, what we have to consider. Many people awakened and can see the problems, which just has become more on the topic than 3, 5, 10 years ago. And I think we can have, we have now the chance to live heaven on earth.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. And I know that your life has gotten better, and it shows on you because you're more vital than in the past. And that means you're operating from much more energy today than you were before. And energy is life. And so we don't want to squander the energy, but we want to use the energy to manifest the things we want. If you're using your energy to do other stuff that doesn't get you anything, I said, well, then you just wasted your opportunity. You spent your money and now you have nothing, and now you don't like what you got. And I say, well, you have to let go of that other stuff and start putting the money back into your own system. Your own energy is what we want to do.
Absolutely.
And that, to me, is the big message for the community that we're talking to today, because the community of people are us. But most of us don't have the education that you and I have, because if you're an economist or you work in this job or that job, this is the stuff that you and I talk about that's our language. It's not the language of most people. But as I said, science has also put that language into Latin. So when we talk our science, if you and I talk real science, nobody on this thing would understand what the hell we're talking about. It's time to it's like Gutenberg. What did he do? He printed the Bible in the local language, and we need a Gutenberg version of today's world. Let's get out of the Latin and let's just give people the simple facts. And the simple facts: you are a creator. You've been programmed, and your life is not coming from your creative conscious mind. 95% is coming from the program. You're not living your life. You want to live your life, you have to start adjusting those programs to make them support you, programs that support you rather than take advantage of you.
And I like to add, eat wild foods, and I'm not talking about animals, my dear. Yeah. So, and yes, some do. You know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, I know, but I agree with you.
So the plants and out of the ocean, especially, they are much faster. And I thank you so much for your support, Bruce. I know how busy you are. And I like
Heidi, darling, dearest Heidi, we've been made our connection years ago, and we're still connected. We're entangled, and you're here to support me, and I'm here to support you. And that's a sign of what we're trying to tell other people. We don't have to be in the same place, but we are the same community.
Yes, and we don't have to talk every day. It's sometimes a few times in a year, if at all, but we are still connected. And I am so happy that we met, and I thank you. You were and are my inspiration. Just remember the time when I started as a PhD student. You answered immediately, and that is not common, Bruce. I want to thank you. And I think,
and you are my community because you understand what we're talking about. So we can have this dialogue, but then together we can help all the other people who don't understand what we're talking about. And yet we're called life scientists, biology, life. And therefore, people want to talk to the economists, and they want to talk to the psychologists, and they want to talk to the sociologists. And I go, we need to talk to the biologists because that's the foundation of life.
So if a scientist should know that, then a biologist, because we have to know everything. We have to know every disease in plants and animals and humans, and what kind of insect was flying around there. What was that? And you know that. I have no idea. My plant is sick. What does it have? I don't know. So that's quite funny. Bruce. Yeah. I thank you very, very much. And I hope you see us again.
I hope so.
Time
And
is
vielen
right.
Dank, mein Freund. I'm so happy to be with you because I know that when we talk, that people are listening and that we give them an opportunity to say, if you don't like the way it is, you can change it. You can make it the way you want it, but you have to let go of the programming that has disempowered you.
Yeah.
And I think that's the bottom line message that we walk away with. And the whole idea, we start with transhumanism. I say, why should I improve the quality or who I am when I'm not even using myself to that level? I have more potential that I haven't even touched. And that's what people think, that, oh, that's limitation. I say, we're not limited. We're just not using the powers we were given. And if we did, then transhumanism would be a stupid story, because we don't need. We are more powerful as we are.
Absolutely. And the first step is to make the decision, I take my power back, period.
Yes.
Yes.
And then take a step.
And
Because a
take
lot
a
of people
step.
just keep it in their
Exactly.
mind. Yes, I'm more powerful than I can be, but I haven't done anything and my life is still the same. And I go, yeah, until you do something, it will stay the same. So get the intention and then
Right.
take a step. Take a
Genau.
step. Thank you so much, darling, for letting me talk
Thank
to your
you.
community. And I look forward to our next conversation.
It will be.
And I see you're getting younger, so it's going to be great to see you. So
Next
I
time it will
appreciate it.
work. Next time it will work. I
Yeah,
promise
I
you. Or you
appreciate
come
it.
to visit me.
I'd love to do that. Thank you, darling. And thank
Thank you.
everybody online with us. I so appreciate it.
Absolutely. Just listen to Bruce. If you don't believe me, listen to Bruce. Thank you, Bruce. Bye.
Thank you, sweetheart. Bye.